Let's face it, boats are expensive. And when you start dreaming about bluewater sailing, it can feel like the price tag has to match the size of your ambition. But what if I told you there are sailboats out there that won't drain your wallet and are still tough enough to cross oceans? They might not be flashy, they might need a little love, but they've got the bones, the track record, and the kind of salty reputation that just won't quit. These are the boats that keep turning up in distant anchorages decades after they were first launched. Boats that have survived storms, neglect, bad owners, and still come back for more. Today, we're looking at 5 bluewater sailboats under $20K that refuse to die. If you're on a tight budget but dreaming big, these are the scrappy survivors worth a serious look. Let's dive in. The Albin Vega 27 is a true cult classic when it comes to budget bluewater cruisers. Built in Sweden between the late 1960s and late 70s, over 3,400 of these boats were produced, and many are still sailing today, some of them halfway around the world. It's not just the numbers that make it impressive, it's the stories behind them. This is the kind of boat that just keeps showing up. You'll find Vegas in the canals of Europe, the Caribbean, Southeast Asia, everywhere. Part of the reason is their rugged fiberglass construction and simple systems, but it's also because of the sailors who take them out. The Vega tends to attract determined, practical cruisers, people who value function over flash. At 27 feet long with a beam of just under 8 feet, she's narrow by modern standards, but that slender profile gives her a very forgiving motion at sea. She won't be the fastest boat in your marina, but she'll take a blow and keep going. The full skeg-hung rudder and long fin keel give her solid directional stability, important when you're hundreds of miles offshore. The interior is basic but efficient. You've got a small galley, a proper saloon with settees, a V-berth up forward, and a head tucked in between. Headroom is a bit tight, around 5'10", but manageable for most folks. The layout isn't fancy, but it works, and the simplicity makes it easy to maintain or modify to suit your needs. And here's the kicker. You can still find Albin Vegas under $20,000, sometimes well under. I've seen solid examples listed for under 10 grand, especially in the US and Europe. Of course, you'll want to inspect carefully. Some have been sitting, some need new rigging or electronics. But even if you budget for upgrades, you're still way ahead compared to almost anything else that's truly ocean-capable. What really cements the Vega's reputation are the stories from people who've sailed them across oceans. One of the most famous is Matt Rutherford, who circumnavigated the Americas solo in a Vega, a journey of over 25,000 miles through some of the most brutal waters on Earth, including the Northwest Passage and Cape Horn. If that doesn't earn the boat some respect, I don't know what does. So, is the Albin Vega perfect? No. She's small, slow, and won't turn heads in a fancy marina. But if you're looking for a true go-anywhere boat on a shoestring budget, this little Swedish warrior deserves a hard look. She's been around the world more times than most of us ever will, and she's not done yet. Now this one's a legend. The Contessa 26 is probably the most famous tiny but mighty bluewater sailboat out there. If you've been into sailing for any time at all, you've probably heard about Tanya Aby, the young woman who circumnavigated solo in one back in the 1980s. She was only 18 when she left New York. Her boat? A Contessa 26 named Varuna. That story put the Contessa on the map, but its reputation was already growing before then. Designed in the 1960s, this little boat was built in both the UK and Canada, and quickly gained a reputation for being stout, seaworthy, and, most importantly, affordable. At 25 foot 6 inches on deck, with a beam of just over 7 feet, she's compact and narrow, but don't let that fool you. The hull design is a long fin keel with a skeg-hung rudder, which gives you a good mix of tracking and maneuverability. And the build quality? Properly overbuilt for the size, the glass layup is thick, and the hull deck joint is solid. These boats were made to be used. Like the Albin Vega, the Contessa isn't fast by modern standards, but she's steady, especially in heavy weather. That's what makes her a favorite among offshore traditionalists. She handles well under sail, especially if you reef early and keep her balanced. When it gets nasty, she's the kind of boat you trust to look after you. Inside, it's tight. You get a small galley, some decent storage, and a V-berth forward, but don't expect luxury. Headroom is limited, under 5'10", and you'll be bumping elbows if you sail with a partner. But again, the layout is practical. Everything is within arm's reach, and when you're on passage, that's what you want. The real gem here is that you can still find Contessa 26s under $20,000. Some might be rough, but there are good bones in almost all of them. With some elbow grease and smart upgrades, like new rigging, a solar setup, or a composting head, you've got a serious offshore boat for a fraction of the cost of a new day sailor. The Contessa community is another plus. There are groups, forums, and old salts who've been sailing these boats for decades. So if you ever need advice, parts, or just a bit of encouragement, there's a strong network out there ready to help. Bottom line, the Contessa 26 might be small, but she's the real deal. She's already sailed around the world more times than we'll ever count. If you're looking for a serious blue water cruiser with a proven pedigree, and you don't mind sailing light and tight, this boat refuses to die, and she's earned every bit of her reputation. The Cape Dory 27 is one of those boats that quietly earns respect. It doesn't scream at you from across the marina with flash or flare, but if you know what you're looking at, you'll stop and nod in appreciation. Designed for coastal cruising but built with enough backbone for serious passage-making, the Cape Dory 27 is one of those rare budget sailboats that refuses to die. Built from the mid-70s through the early 80s, this boat has that classic full-keel, narrow-beam shape that fans of traditional sailing love. She's 27 feet on deck with a beam of just 8'6" and displaces around 6,500 pounds. It's a lot of boat in a small, tough package. That full keel gives her directional stability, and while she's not going to win races, she'll track straight and true when the weather turns foul. The construction is solid fiberglass, and Cape Dory was known for doing it right. These boats were built to a standard, not to a price point. The bulkheads are glassed to the hull, the deck fittings are overbuilt, and the interior woodwork, especially the teak, is simple but beautiful. Even today, you'll find Cape Doris from the 70s still cruising or anchored in remote spots around the world. Down below, she's cozy. You won't find standing headroom for everyone, it's about 5'10" in the saloon, but she packs in the essentials. A simple galley with a sink and stove, a marine head forward, a fold-down table, and a couple of comfortable settees make up the main space. It's not fancy, but it works. And in rough weather, the snugness is a plus. It gives you bracing points and a real sense of security. One of the great things about Cape Doris is that they were relatively popular, so you can still find them on the market. Prices vary depending on condition, but it's not uncommon to find a seaworthy Cape Dory 27 for under 20 grand. You might need to update the rigging, maybe throw on some solar panels or modern nav gear, but the bones are solid, and that's what matters. These boats also have a bit of a cult following. Owners tend to love them, and there are dedicated forums and groups where folks swap advice, restoration tips, and stories. That kind of community can be a lifesaver if you're cruising on a budget and doing your own work. If you're the kind of sailor who values simplicity, rugged construction, and that salty traditional look, the Cape Dory 27 is a tough little cruiser that just keeps going. She may not have standing headroom or massive tankage, but she's a blue water boat in a compact, affordable form. And she's more than proven her seaworthiness over the years. Now here's one that doesn't get as much attention as her big sister, the famous Westsail 32, but the Westsail 28 is every bit as salty and seaworthy. Built for serious ocean sailing in a compact package, this boat has the heart of an offshore cruiser and the guts to back it up. The Westsail 28 was designed to fill a niche, give sailors the rugged, world cruising capabilities of the 32 but in a slightly smaller, more manageable boat. At 28 feet on deck, with a heavy displacement of over 16,000 pounds, she's a serious chunk of fiberglass. That means a comfortable motion in a seaway and durability that's hard to match in this size range. These boats were built in the mid to late 1970s in California, during the heyday of the cruising revolution. The hull is thick solid fiberglass, no coring to worry about in most of them, and the deck and bulkheads are beefy. She's got a full keel, a wineglass stern, and a canoe underbody that gives her that soft, forgiving ride offshore. You won't be surfing down waves in a Westsail 28, but you'll feel safe and steady even when conditions get nasty. Inside, you'll find a warm, traditional layout. A small galley, a quarter berth, a V-berth up forward, and a compact saloon with just enough space to live and work. There's usually a proper marine head, and sometimes even a wood-burning stove. Headroom is decent, just shy of 6 feet, and the feeling down below is more sturdy cabin than weekend camper. One of the big draws with this boat is how much of a blue water package you get for the money. While Westsail 32s can push well into the $30,000 and $40,000 range depending on condition, the 28 sometimes sneaks in under that magic 20 grand number, especially if it needs a little TLC. I found one recently listed in Panama for 15 grand, ready for a new owner to finish prepping her for cruising. The caveat, as with many boats in this price range, is that systems may be dated. You'll probably want to upgrade the wiring, check the rig, maybe replace the tankage or plumbing, but you're starting with a hull that can take you anywhere, and that's the part you can't easily buy or build. The Westsail 28 is a boat for dreamers who don't mind putting in some work. She's heavy, slow, and a bit quirky, but she's got that rugged, go-anywhere DNA that Westsail fans swear by. If you find one that's been looked after, or if you're willing to do the looking after yourself, you've got a true little ship that's ready to chase horizons. She might not be pretty by modern standards, but the Westsail 28 isn't going anywhere anytime soon. She's built like a brick and refuses to die. The Pearson Triton 28 is one of the true icons of American fiberglass sailboat history. Born in the late 1950s, the Triton was among the first production fiberglass cruisers ever built, and more than 60 years later, a surprising number of them are still sailing. That alone says a lot about their design and durability. Designed with the goal of offering a sturdy, capable cruising boat that the average sailor could afford, the Triton hit a sweet spot. She's 28 feet overall, with a beam of just over 8 feet and a displacement around 6,000 pounds. With her full keel and long overhangs, she looks like a proper little yacht, and sails like one too. She's not fast, but she's steady and reliable, especially in a blow. The full keel gives her great directional stability, and the high bow and gentle sheer give her a dry, comfortable ride. This boat was designed with offshore potential in mind, and over the years, Tritons have crossed oceans, circumnavigated, and held their own in serious offshore conditions. Down below, the interior is classic 1960s cruiser. You've got a compact but practical layout, berths for 4, a small galley, and a marine head. Headroom is just under 6 feet, depending on the version, and while it's tight by modern standards, it's more than workable for a solo sailor or adventurous couple. The finish is basic, but charming. Think varnished wood, cozy cushions, and that salty, old-school vibe. One of the biggest draws of the Pearson Triton is how affordable they are. You can still find decent examples for under 10 grand, and fixer-uppers often pop up for half that. Sure, they'll likely need some love, new standing rigging, fresh wiring, maybe a rebuilt diesel, but the hull itself is usually rock solid. Pearson used thick fiberglass layups back then, and these boats were built to last. The Triton also has a loyal community of owners who share advice, parts, and restoration stories. That network makes a big difference when you're doing work on a vintage boat, and it's part of what keeps so many of these boats alive and sailing. If you're looking for a true blue water boat under 20 grand that's already proven itself countless times, the Pearson Triton 28 is a classic that just won't quit. She may be small and old, but she was built in an era when boats were meant to last, and she refuses to die. So there you have it. 5 blue water sailboats under 20 grand that just keep going. They're not fancy, and they're not fast, but they're tough, proven, and full of stories. If you're dreaming big on a small budget, one of these salty survivors might be the boat that gets you out there. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you out on the water.